unlike shows like Bates Motel and Hannibal, which are retellings, is Damien definitively a sequel?
Yeah, Damien is a sequel to the 1976 film. So we are taking that as our starting point.
So sorry I'm late. Hello.
But taking that as our starting point, we're ignoring the second and third films in that original trilogy, and we're just using the events of the original film.
So how do you work in, like, is this a lead to the final conflict because of the events in that movie where he ends up becoming president? And how do you kind of work into that mythology? How kind of...
Well, that's a long story to tell, and so hopefully we'll have a few seasons to be able to tell that. But in season 1, Damien's coming to grips with his life and trying to figure this out, and then as he develops along a certain path where he's supposed to bring about the apocalypse, that's really the story of the entire show. So I'm familiar with that film, but I think what's been fun is that we really have spent a lot of time creating the character, and then I feel like the story that unfolds has to stay true to that character instead of some larger mythology, let's say. It really is, I feel like this is a character piece that plays as a thriller, that has a lot of great horror, but, people watch TV because it's always cool people doing cool stuff every week, and it's about those characters that we care about, and that's why we watch them.
You talked a lot about, the relationships on the show and how these characters are really interesting. The way they interact is really interesting. So can you kind of both talk about what your favorite relationship to portray on the show is and why maybe fans should be excited to see that progress?
I'm actually interested to see what you say about this.
Yeah, that's a pretty great question.
You've been seeing it from a different viewpoint. I've been seeing it on set.
Yeah,
whereas you've been seeing the manifestation of that.
Yeah, that's like asking about my children.
Favorite kid. Yeah, you've got a favorite kid though.
I will say what's been really great is when you start developing a show, you're thinking about these characters, okay? You're thinking about the stories, and you're thinking about how they're going to drive story. Then you bring in the actors, and the way we work is, I'll have a lot of conversations with the actors and say, what do you think about this character? And then as you do your work, people call and respond to the material, and I've had a lot of stories that have been inspired from those conversations. So I feel like it's all a process. What's really been exciting is working with Bradley and Barbara, and the way that character, that relationship just felt so natural once we got it up on its feet. It's a lot of fun to write. I'm not going to say it's my favorite because I don't want to play favorites, but that's been something that has felt very, very satisfying to write, very, very natural, and I feel like seeing these two on screen together, you guys bring out the best in each other.
I'm going to piggyback that because I would say the types of scenes that we've had so far have maybe brought about the biggest development. Without giving too much away, I don't think that is, if anything, away. What a big spoiler. Don't say that. So I would say that's a relationship that, because of its development, is one that stands out.
Bradley, when you get the role of Damien, or even when you audition for it, what sort of pressure do you feel?
I don't think pressure is the right word. I understand completely why you'd ask that question. No pressure, really. It's the difference between approaching, going for a part and going, I really, really want this, and approaching a part saying, right, how do I achieve this? And so it's not so much about the pressure of doing a good job, it's just focusing on the work you need to do a good job. It's playing the game, not the occasion, in a sense. Which is how to turn that around, I suppose. The pressure, it's not so much pressure, but it's it's an exciting kind of I'll start again because I just mumbled for 2 minutes. Reading the script evoked a lot of things in my imagination, and so it was more to do with that kind of level of inspiration as opposed to any form of pressure.
When you hear one of your coasters say it's all for you, Damien, do you get a chill?
Has anyone said that to me? I think the trailer, because the trailer quite spookily sort of throws that in there, and we've had a couple moments of people saying that, and I think it's not so much approaching it as, oh, that's an iconic line. It's more approaching it as, what the hell are you talking about? That's why, like, if someone said that to you, what are you talking about? So I think afterwards when I watch it, it will have that tingle of, oh, that's what it's about. Whereas in the moment, you're taking on board as this person, is insane.
So how do you go about, and this kind of for both of you, how do you make this character sympathetic, or is he more of an anti-hero in this show because he sort of finds himself trapped in this role that he never asked for?
How do you
make him sympathetic to us, or is he sort of an anti-hero? Like he's going to embrace this, and you're just going to be like, well, no one on the show is likable. I guess we're going to root for Damien.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say no one on the show is likable. I think Damien and all of the characters are involved in a set of circumstances that is terrifying to all of them. He has a unique perspective, and what's important is to make that character's perspective understandable to the audience, so that you care about him. You feel for him. And I think part of what makes him sympathetic is the fact that he has a great deal of humanity. That he's not just. He may have evil tendencies. He may have an evil inside him.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? But he's not. But he's a complex. He's a complex character. And I think Bradley's done a great job of infusing that character with that humanity.
Are you guys going to be recreating any of the famous scenes from the first movie in flashback form?
No, we are not recreating. Those events have taken place in our world, and we do reference those, I think, in very surprising ways that will appeal to fans of the original film. So and then I will say that as we develop, taking the entire mythology, there's a lot of kind of fun Easter eggs throughout, season 1, but we're not, we wouldn't dare try to, recast Lee Remick and Gregory Peck.
What can you tell us? Oh, last question. Okay. Damien's life leading up to finding out this truth about himself, what kind of a life has he led up to this point?
Well, you'll find that out, it becomes very clear when we meet him. He's active in his job, and then as we, as he learns about the events that have taken place, he has to go back and revisit his life. He has, this is what that meant, or whatever. So that's been a lot of fun too. And it's been difficult for you, I would imagine it's been difficult for you as an actor to not only create the character now, but then to create this backstory of 25 years. But the writers and I have spent a lot of time talking about those missing 25 years. We've given you a little bit of it, but has that been difficult for you to play that?
I had a long time before I think this came about in November.
Yeah.
We didn't start till March. I came
just
on board
for scheduling issues.
We came on board in November and we started in March. So I had plenty of time to do the preparation needed for that sort of situation.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.